What is going on today, guys? We are back for another episode, and today we're going to be working on a guide for salvaging. Now, as far as salvaging goes, there's tons of different ways you can go about salvaging. You have your wrenches, as you can see here. You could use your mining tools, and there's a variety of different ways to do it. And today's video is all going to be about what tool does what damage, and what's the harvest count. So, you'll notice my inventory is clear with the exception of a gun and some wood frames here. Um, Now, the reason I just have the gun is because in case we get interrupted by roaming horde, uh, just want to have something better than my auger or chainsaw to fight them with. So, uh, with that being said, we're going to start with the pickaxes, then we're going to move on to the wrenches, and then we're going to move on to the power tools from there. Now, before we get started, and you'll see what I mean about this as we go, uh, when we're harvesting, these cars are all the same. I use the creative menu to spawn in. Let me actually show you guys here. Use the creative menu to spawn in wrecked cars for this. So I just grabbed like a bit of a stack and ended up like placing some and had to get rid of them because I didn't like how it was set up. But anyway, so I spawned them in so we could use this as a testing thing. All these cars are exactly the same. Now, what we're going to be looking at when we're harvesting them is based off the iron count we get from them. Now, the scrap iron is the only thing that is going to be consistent throughout each and every one of them. The crafting materials you get from them, like the polymer, mechanical parts, pipe, headlights, electrical components once in a while, and the gasoline that you get from them are all going to be random. That's not something you can actually base your salvaging amount off of. So you guys will see what I mean as we go here. But like I said, we're going to be starting with the scrap iron pickaxe, and at the end I'm going to show you guys like the stats in comparison to the other ones as far as all the tools go and stuff like that. But to start with, we're going to check out and see what the damage is based on one swing. So, start out here, scrap iron pickaxe at full durability or close there too. As long as it's over half, I believe it is, you should have your full damage to it. But as you guys will notice, it does 90 damage. So, scrap iron pickaxe would take 4 hits, and now we're going to drop off all this stuff into here. But the scrap iron pickaxe would take 4 hits to take out the bottom layer or any layer of a car, because each layer of the car is 300. And the reason I'm only using one layer of a car is because as you take off one layer, you go into the next one. So I'm just using the bottom layer or the last layer of each car. And again, they're all the same. They're all the same kind of car. There's nothing different with the exception of the RNG god affecting what we're going to get out of it. So anyway, let's check out our harvest count here. So we're going to take this one completely out, and you'll notice 4 swings, and there. So this is everything you get from the car. Let me actually drop off this. There we go. So this is everything you get from salvaging down the bottom layer of a car. Now again, everything from here over will change car to car, no matter what. These are all going to be random as far as what you can get out of it. The only thing that'll stay the same is the iron. So that's all we're going to be focusing on, is how much iron we get out of it. So we're just going to place everything, or just the iron, right here. And I'll actually place the whole works right in here like so. And then at the end we'll compare, and you guys will see what I mean, that it's all completely random. But we're just going to drop this tool off in there as well, so then we know that that's what tool was in our first line. So next up is going to be the iron pickaxe. Now the iron pickaxe is a relatively early game item. The scrap iron pickaxe you're obviously going to be able to have access to earlier unless you get lucky and find an iron pickaxe or better in loot or at the trader. So as far as the iron pickaxe goes, it's a pretty relatively early game item. You don't need really any special resource. to make it. It's pretty cheap. You can actually see right here. So the iron pickaxe only requires 20 forged iron, 10 wood, and 2 leather. So very cheap. Not nearly as cheap as the scrap iron pickaxe. And of course, the iron pickaxe needs to be made on a workbench. I believe, yeah, it's only a minute and 23 seconds to make it. So it's pretty quick to make, pretty cheap to make, and it's pretty early game effective item. Now the scrap iron pickaxe is a lot cheaper. 5 leather, 10 wood, and 50 scrap iron. So again, very cheap to make, very quick to make. You can craft it in your inventory. It's something you can have like really early game access to. But let's check out the damage of this iron pickaxe and see how it compares. So you guys will notice it does 126 damage. So not too bad in comparison to the first car. It is quite a bit different, which I'll actually grab this back out so you can see. Now, oh, it's not going to show up. I need to have my repair tool on me, which I'll get to in the end. But anyway, you guys will see this does 126 damage, so it's not bad. It is quite a step up from 90, but, you know, it's still going to take you 3 swings to fully complete 1 layer of a car. So, as far as resources go, again, you'll see how everything's kind of randomized as far as crafting components go. But now let's check out by fully taking out this layer of the car. So now you'll notice we got 40 iron out of it. 40 iron and then random amounts of crafting components after. So, we're just going to chuck all this right into here for now. But as you'll notice, the iron stays the same. Everything else is random, except that. So that's what we're basing our salvage amount off of, is the iron. So, now, remember that when you're salvaging a vehicle with a mining tool, your mining skill affects how much you harvest out of it. If you have a lower mining skill, you're obviously going to get less of the iron out of it, which will inherently mean you get less crafting components based on your RNG versus your mining skill. Now, if you're using the wrench, your salvage operation skill will affect how much you can get out of it. So as you'll see, as you go up in your salvage operation skill, you get more and more resources out of it. So, you know, that's what's going to affect that. But anyway, on to the steel pickaxe. Now, the steel pickaxe is a relatively mid-game item, I'll call it. You can get lucky and find a schematic for it, but unlike in vanilla, you need to meet certain requirements for making it, which I will show you guys in the skill tree here. Let me see, where is, not steel crafting, but where is, did I pass it? Okay, I thought there was a skill for steel tool crafting, but, oh, it's right here. So you'll notice it unlocks all steel tool recipes, but even with the schematic, you're going to have science crafting 2, weapon crafting tool 2, and tool crafting 3 in order to get it, and no labor class. If you have the labor class, you can get into the tools a lot earlier, but without that, even with the schematic, you still need to meet the other skill requirements to open them up. So basically, what I'm saying is, unless you get lucky and find one at a trader, or you find one in a loot, it's a mid-ish game item you're going to be crafting for this. So anyway, let's check out the damage of this. Now you'll notice this does 220 damage. So that's a considerable step up from what we've been seeing so far. You know, with the scrap iron pickaxe and then the iron pickaxe. The steel pickaxe definitely does a lot more damage. So now let's check out the harvest amount. And you'll notice, again, crafting components being super random. We only got polymer and mechanical parts out of killing that one fully off, whereas we got, you know, all this from, or the gas in the iron pipe as well from just one single hit. But you'll notice iron stays the same. So let's move ourselves on to the titanium pickaxe. Now the titanium pickaxe is most definitely a later game item. In order to get the titanium pickaxe, you need to be able to go into the wasteland. In order to go in the wasteland, you need one of three things: a full suit of hazmat gear, a full suit of power armor, or anti-rad pills. Now the hazmat armor is the easiest to obtain. Power armor you unlock from the future tech tree, which is right here, and you'll see unlocks power armor. So in order to get to that, you need to be level 125 and have three points into the tech crafting tree. So that's a later game item for sure. Now anti-rad pills comes from Master Scientist, which I can actually just show you in here. Anti-radiation pills. Now they're very cheap to make, but again, it has to be Master Scientist, so you need to have the Scientist class, and you need to be level 50 to unlock a mastery for it. So it's a mid to late game unlock. Most people probably won't hit level 50 until after the first Horde Night, depending on your playstyle, even later. Some people, depending on your playstyle, can hit level 50 by the first Horde Night. It all depends on your playstyle. But again, very cheap to make, and it cures most radiation and has a chance to provide protection. Does not necessarily mean it will provide protection, but it has a chance to. So you could take your chances on using them to get into the wasteland to grab titanium if you want. However, for me, I will wait until I get the hazmat gear before I ever go in. But anyway, so like I said, it's definitely a later game item, getting this pickaxe, but let's see what it does for damage. So you'll notice it does at least 300 damage, at least. So it's definitely a step up, again, from where the steel pickaxe is. Now we can't tell exactly how much damage it is from the one swing, because it completely cleared off a 300 durability layer, but we will get to see the complete damage of it when we go and test out just our mining tools on rock nodes in another video. So let's clear out this other car, and we'll check the iron from both swings on it. So let's take this swing, just like so, and then we're going to compare. So the first one, of course, cleared it completely out as well, but you'll notice again, 40 iron both times. Now the other thing you'll notice is how random the crafting components are. With the exception of the mechanical parts, everything else is different. So again, it's random per car, no matter if they're the same or not. And excuse me, I gotta go pick up something after my cat. Alright, I apologize about that. Stupid cat was trying to climb into the damn cupboard. Knocked a bunch of shit down. But anyway, back to this. You'll notice, like, again, the iron stays the same so far, no matter which tool we use for harvesting. So in this case, when salvaging, the tool quality, like not the quality level, but from scrap iron to iron to steel to titanium, doesn't make a difference to your harvest amount. But again, this is only for salvaging. It's not for like mining and stuff like that. So we'll get into like the mining and other harvesting with it as well. But as far as salvaging goes, it doesn't make a difference for harvesting amount. But anyway, we're now on to a regular wrench. A regular wrench is a very easy find. It's a very early game item. You can find them very easily either from the trader, and they're very common in sinks. So a wrench is something you could probably get day one without too much of an issue. It's not high up in the loot tier table, so a wrench is something very simple you can get. It doesn't cost too much to craft, which I'll show you. It only costs 24 forged iron and 4 mechanical parts, which, yeah, it's a little bit expensive, but, you know, as far as how common they are to find, there's no real need to end up crafting one because you should be able to find plenty of them. But anyway, let's test the damage out of this. So you'll see at max skill, it does 57. So again, this is all these tools have 0 mods in them. This is just a base tool. But you'll notice it's only 57 damage. So as far as damage-wise goes, it's definitely less than even the scrap iron pickaxe. So it's definitely going to be a lot slower to salvage down a vehicle. But let's check out the harvest amount and see if it's worth using over even the scrap iron pickaxe. Okay, so it took six hits with it to completely salvage down 1 layer of a car. And as you'll notice, the iron amount is still at 40. So with the regular iron wrench, there is no difference between it and any of the mining tools. So, you know, in my opinion, based on the amount of damage you can do, is it worth using? I'd say no. It takes a lot longer to a lot longer to salvage down, and you'll notice you don't get any extra resource from using it. So, in my opinion, as far as that goes, I won't use it. I always use my mining tools, but again, it can be personal preference too, and you also need to base it off your skill for whichever you're using, whether it be your mining skills for the pickaxes or your salvage operation skills for the wrenches. But anyway, let's get on to the steel wrench here. So now the steel wrench is a later game item. It comes from, let's see here. It comes from Master Mechanic, which again, in order to get a mastery, you need to be level 50 and you need to be in that class. It takes 10 skill points or a mastery book to unlock the mastery for it. So it's a mid-ish to later game item. It's not too terribly expensive. It's only 12 forged steel and 4 mechanical parts, so it doesn't cost that much at all. But it is something that is going to take you a little while to unlock. Now let's test out the damage of it. So you'll see it does 108 damage. So not too bad. It's slightly better than the scrap iron pickaxe. So as far as the difference between the two, the steel wrench does slightly more. Not by a lot, but just slightly more. So let's salvage down this whole bottom chunk of this car and see what we get for a harvest amount. Alright, so you'll notice here again, 40 iron is still the same regardless. This time we managed to pick up one of the more rare electrical components, but we got almost no gas from it. So again, you'll notice the crafting components are kind of, you know, oddball as far as the RNG goes to it. I do not think, at least in my opinion, I don't think that the wrenches increase the amount of stuff you'll get. But at the end, what we'll do is we'll make rows in our inventory here, and we'll compare the amounts based on it. But as far as the steel wrench goes over the regular wrench, it is definitely better. But is it worth using? As far as the harvest count goes, it appears to be exactly the same. But anyway, let's get on. The next tool we're going to use is not one that I would recommend using. It's the chainsaw, the regular chainsaw. Now, there is a hell of a difference between the regular chainsaw and the titanium chainsaw. Before we even start this, I want to explain about the titanium chainsaw. The titanium chainsaw has the same properties as an auger as far as mining and salvaging goes. For some reason, and this is what I've found so far, the titanium chainsaw actually can do more damage than the titanium auger when equipped with the exact same mods. Now, I have absolutely no idea why that is. I think it is ass backwards. But if you're ever out mining and you have a titanium chainsaw and a titanium auger, try the chainsaw out. If it has the exact same mods as your auger, it'll do more damage. Don't know why, but it has completely different properties as compared to the regular steel chainsaw. So just take note of that as we use these tools. So we're just going to give this a one tap, and you'll notice it only does 10 damage. So 10 damage is very low, and this is exactly why I said I would not recommend using this for salvaging anything, whether it be a car or toilets, ovens, etc. like that. It's not worth using. The chainsaw should basically only be used for harvesting trees and stuff like that, and that's it in my opinion. But let's salvage down this whole half of the car here, or this whole third of the car rather, and we'll see exactly what we get for a harvest amount. Okay, so that's that car down, and now as you'll notice again, we're still at 40 iron, and we have kind of a randomness to our crafting components again as far as what we get for salvage. So at 10 damage per hit, the steel chainsaw is definitely not worth using. Now, the steel chainsaw does take a while to unlock. It is a rather expensive tool, so we'll actually show you in here. Whoops, if I could type instead of fat fingering. Alright, so the chainsaw requires bike handlebars. Now, in order to get bike handlebars, you need either like the bicycles for dumb shits thing, or you need to be in the mechanic class, or get the schematic for the handlebars. So, that's one part of it. Now, an engine you'll need to find or salvage from a car, which engines, batteries, and the radiators only come from the second layer of a car. But apart from that, it's rather cheap to make. At only 10 steel and 10 mechanical parts, 1 engine and 1 handlebar. It's very cheap to make, but it does take a while to unlock. Now, you can get extremely lucky and find these early game. You can get lucky and find one at the trader. They're not a high loot tier item, so it's not too unlikely to find one. And again, it's all going to depend on your luck and, the RNG as to if you'll find one or not. But overall, they're pretty cheap to unlock. You unlock it through advanced engineering, which is in the labor class, and it is advanced engineering level 4. So it will take you a little bit of time to unlock it. If you get the schematic for it, I don't believe it requires any like special skills. I think you'd only need like tool crafting for the quality of it, but otherwise it's if you find a schematic, you can get one pretty damn early. So it's definitely a pretty good item as far as like using for wood. But other than that, the regular chainsaw is not something that I would consider too worth it in the early game, in my opinion. But anyway, let's move on to the regular steel auger. Now, just like the steel chainsaw, it comes from the same thing. It comes from the advanced engineering level 4 in the labor class, or it comes from a schematic. So, again, it costs the same amount of resources to make. Whoops. Let me actually pull it up in here. It costs the same amount of resources to make exactly. So it's something, again, same as with the chainsaw. You can get lucky and find it in loot early game. Same with that, the trader. You can get a schematic for it pretty early game and craft one. And again, not very expensive, but in my opinion, and this is just based on my play style, an auger for me is like a must-have. As early as possible. The earlier I get an auger, the earlier or the quicker I progress early game. So anyway, let's test out the damage of it. So as you can see, it does 62 damage, which isn't too bad considering how high its attacks per minute are. 62 damage is pretty damn good in my opinion. But let's drop this off and let's test out the full harvest count here. And do I have an extra car over here? Oh, I do. Whoops, my bad. So let's test out the full harvest amount. All right. So as you guys will note, hold on. There we go. As you guys will note, again, you're getting 40 iron, and then random amounts of crafting components based on RNG luck in the game. So overall, it's not too bad. It's very, very quick. In my opinion, the Auger is definitely the way to go. Or rather, as far as so far, the Auger is definitely the way to go as far as what are the tools we've seen so far to use. If your mining skill tool, or if your mining skill is up to par for using there. But anyway, we're now going to move on to the titanium chainsaw. Now, the titanium chainsaw is again another very late game item. Actually pull it up here. So you'll notice the expensive part of this is the titanium, which again is something you have to have access to the wasteland. So you'll need the full set of hazmat gear, full set of power armor, or the anti-rad pills and a dream, basically. And you'll need to get titanium, smelt it down. You'll need titanium crafting to be able to make forged titanium. So I believe that comes at level 75 unless you're in the laborer class. So, which you'll need the laborer class in order to unlock them anyway, because you need master builder, which is something you can get at level 50. Which actually, strike what I said about needing the level 75. You just have to be in the laborer class to be able to get this. So you'll need at least level 50. You'll need access to the wasteland, and you're going to need, I believe, now I could be wrong on this, but I believe you also need to have an advanced forge in order to make forged titanium. I don't think you can make it on the big forge, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong on that. But all in all, titanium auger and the titanium chainsaw are definitely a later game item. But once you get them, you're really not going to want to use anything else. They're just pretty good. So anyway, let's test this sucker out with one hit. And you'll notice 150 damage. So that's pretty good considering it has no mods in it. It does 150 damage. And considering its attack rate, or its hits per minute, it's not bad. I mean, you can cook through stuff really quick with the titanium power tools. But anyway, let's check out the harvest amount from this. So 2 hits to clear it out. And again, you'll notice we got 40 iron and then random amounts of crafting components, including getting the electrical part this time, but no headlights. And also you'll notice fully taking it out gave us about half the gas. So again, it's random as far as crafting components. The only thing you're looking at is the scrap iron here, which again, so far with every tool we've used has been 40, and we got an airdrop coming in somewhere. But anyway, now we're going to move on to the titanium auger, which again is the same thing as the titanium chainsaw as far as what you need and as far as the exact same resources. So it's definitely a later game item. It's by far one of my favorite things, either the titanium chainsaw. Speaking of roaming hordes coming through, I can't believe they didn't even notice me while I was running the power tools. That's kind of odd. But that's kind of funny. Just look over and see a zombie bear running across the road with everything else. But they'll probably be heading this way, so I'm gonna clear them out real quick before we start the titanium auger. Okay, so they're all dealt with now. Back to the titanium chainsaw here. So there's also a vulture, but whatever. Vulture shouldn't bug us anyway. And never mind. Now he's definitely not. But anyway, the titanium chainsaw is again the same as the titanium, or the titanium auger rather, is the same as the oh my god. The titanium auger is the same as the titanium chainsaw as far as resources goes and as far as how you unlock it. There's no schematic to unlock it. You have to have master builder. So you're going to need the labor class and its mastery in order to get it. So anyway, let's test the damage out and the harvest amount and see what we get. So you'll notice 150 damage on there. So It's basically on par uh, as far as with the titanium chainsaw without mods, but with mods it's a little bit different, just slightly. But anyway, so 150 damage for the base titanium auger, which is pretty damn good. That's 2 hits to take out the whole thing, which, as you guys have seen, there's only been, what, 1, 2, 3 other tools that are at that level. So everything else is below it, or yeah, just below it. So it's pretty good, but it's a later game item. Now let's finish harvesting up this car here, or let's completely harvest this one up and see what we get. So you'll notice again with the iron, it is exactly 40 like every one of the other components there. So, and again, you get random other crafting components here. But so far, everything is basically the exact same as far as harvesting goes, with max level skills. Now, obviously, with the randomness of the crafting components, you can't see exactly the difference. But basing it off of the scrap iron you get from it, they're each the same. Now, the big difference is going to be, of course, the damage to them. So let's see if I brought it. I did. Now we'll go through and we'll check out the damage with each tool. So this is the scrap iron pickaxe, which does 90. This is from the iron pickaxe, which does 126. The steel pickaxe did 220. Titanium pickaxe did at least 300. Because we don't know exactly, because it was the durability of the car is only 300, but we know it did at least 300 damage. The regular iron wrench does 57. Wow, I am having one hell of a time talking today. The steel wrench did 108. The regular steel chainsaw did 10. The regular steel auger did 62. And both the titanium auger and the chainsaw did 150 respectively. So, basically it's all about more or less what you have the highest skill in, and also if your skills are the same, it comes down to which does more damage. Also, in my opinion, if you are going to be using a mining tool to do it, you might as well use a power tool. The difference in attack speed is significantly makes up for the damage difference. Now we're going to take out each tool here and we're going to put it in line with its harvest count so you guys can see the difference in crafting components. Now again, these are going to be random, so you can't base it off of this, but we'll get an exact look at this, and we'll also take a look at the difference in durability, overall block damage, attacks per minute, and such like that. So let's get everything here pulled out. Get in there. Few more to go. A little bit slow doing it this way, but I want to make sure I'm not like mixing the stuff up, so we can see, see exactly how the difference looks here. Steel wrench. Now again, as we're going through here, notice the difference as far as the harvest amounts on each one go, as far as like the randomness of the crafting components and stuff. It is quite the significant difference. In a way, I kind of wish it wasn't random, because it would be really nice to know uh, exactly what you should get without the RNG to it. The RNG is kind of a pain in the ass with some of the stuff, to be honest. It would be nice if there would be a set amount rather instead of just having the RNG, because like I said, it would be nice to know uh, exactly, but at the same time, you know, the RNG uh, doesn't really affect our testing here because we have one that's actually a set number that will only vary based on your skill in the tool. So, like I said, the iron is the only way you can base this test as far as this layer of the car goes. So we at least have a set number to check our results on. But anyway, let us just hop up here, just in case another roaming horde comes through. But anyway, you'll notice, like I had mentioned, iron is all the same throughout all the tools. Now, again, everything here is random, so you can't ever expect to always get, you know, like the electrical components or a headlight, the iron pipes. You know, sometimes you might not even get the other resources as well, or you might not get as much. So you'll notice like this one we only got 56, this one we got 500, this one we got 700 and a half. You know, we got none here, and we got as much as 10 there. 10 versus 2, you know, 14 versus 6, 0 versus 2, and 0 versus 1. So, you know, it's very random. Um, but overall, we know that they harvest exactly the same amount with the exception of the random drops you get from it. So anyway, let's now compare the durability, attacks per minute, stamina cost, and the block damage of the tools as we go. So you'll notice here, compared to each other, the scrap iron pickaxe versus the iron pickaxe. The iron pickaxe does 12 additional block damage. It also does 8 more attacks per minute, and it has 200 more max durability. Stamina cost is the same. So overall, I would say if you have the choice, definitely move on to the next tier. So now let's compare the iron to the steel, and you'll see the steel does almost double the block damage. It does cost more stamina, and it does swing slower, but it has, you know, triple the durability. So it is quite the considerable difference. You won't be using as many repair kits. You'll be doing almost twice as much damage as you harvest stuff. So in my opinion, definitely worth the upgrade there. So let's compare steel to titanium. Now, the titanium does an additional 27 block damage, so it is a pretty decent step up. It costs less stamina, same amount of attacks per minute, and it's double the durability. So again, if you can upgrade from one to the next, it is well worth it. Now let's compare the wrenches to each other. So you'll notice that as far as block damage goes, the steel wrench actually does less block damage than the regular iron wrench. But it also costs 6 less stamina, it has 4 more attacks per minute, and it is almost double the durability. It's an extra 66%. So it is quite the significant difference. As far as the block damage goes, it's kind of a how they actually calculate that is kind of a little weird as far as these go, because you notice that the steel wrench actually does more than the iron wrench. But, you know, so in my opinion, steel wrench is definitely better than the iron wrench. Now we're going to compare like the power tools versus its counterpart of the regular. So you'll notice steel pickaxe versus the chainsaw. The the chainsaw does considerably less block damage and has 0 stamina cost to it. As far as attacks per minute goes, it's 300 versus 47. So that don't actually compare up when you check the stats thing. So it has, you know, what over 6 times the attacks per minute. So the difference between the block damage is well made up for as far as how much you can do overall in time. And the durability is, of course, way higher, but is also offset because of how the lower block damage and the attack rate is. So it's, in my opinion, it would be well worth the difference, except for the fact that the chainsaw is not for harvesting, uh, or not for salvaging. So, whereas its counterpart, the auger, is well worth the change from a melee tool to a power tool. By far, it is well worth it. A lot less block damage, no stamina cost. Again, it's 300 attacks per minute, and the durability is immensely better. It is 4 times the durability higher. So, in my opinion, if you could pick an auger over a melee tool any day of the week. Now let's compare the titanium to its counterparts of the power tool. Now, this is where the titanium chainsaw differs from the regular chainsaw in the fact that it actually can do damage to ores and any sort of salvaging thing. So it definitely is completely different from a regular chainsaw. Now, with that in mind, it does half the block damage of a pickaxe, but no stamina cost, and again, it's got 4 times as much extra durability over the titanium pickaxe, and again, it's 300 attacks per minute, which is the exact same as the titanium auger. So in my opinion, power tool over melee tool there any day of the week without a doubt. Now let's compare the two titanium tools. So you'll notice that the real difference between the two of them is only melee damage and fuel capacity, which isn't really that big of a deal. Now, as weird as it is, the titanium chainsaw actually does more damage. Why? I have absolutely no idea, but I will be showing this when we test out just the mining tools as far as their harvesting goes for block damage and stuff like that. We're only going to be using a rock node, or perhaps even something higher durability like a titanium ore node, just so we can show exactly how much damage it does, in time, and the harvest count based on the difference between them. So hopefully this video explains in depth, so you guys can see the difference between them. As far as my conclusion and my opinion goes, if I had to pick one, I would pick the titanium auger. I love the augers. They're quieter than the chainsaw. It might not do quite as much damage as far as like mining and stuff goes with mods, though. Without mods, it's either or. But in my opinion, I would take a titanium auger for salvaging over any other tool. And in my opinion, I would not use the wrenches to harvest with or to salvage with. I would definitely stick with a mining tool over the wrenches for salvaging. So hopefully this explained it in good detail to you guys how the damage system works as far as salvaging goes and what the harvest count is. So thank you guys so much for being here. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you guys smash that like button. If you have any questions, comments, any thoughts on this video, let me know in the comment section down below. I will be making other videos as far as like harvesting with axes, shovels, the mining tools themselves, and more videos like that in general to come. So if you guys have any sort of video you guys want to see, make sure you guys let me know in the comment section down below, and I will make that happen. So again, thank you guys so much for being here, and we will catch you guys for the next one.